at this point with so-called synthetic biology or gene editing or whatever you want to call the current wave, because they keep renaming this over and over and over, right? As if they were putting life into it again when they continue to fail to deliver on the promises they made. And you notice that the promises and the ideation, the ideas of how this is going to work, precede the actual physical work in the lab or in the field. As if the technicians, I'm not even going to call them scientists, the technicians are running behind the people with the ideas. Or we should be able to, I don't know, produce prettier babies, or we should be able to, whatever they dream of. And then the technicians behind them, many of them professors in this university and Stanford and so on, those people are running behind saying, okay, you said we would be doing that, there is money to do it, here, I'm going to do it. All you need to do is to promise something. So in this sense, biotechnology has always been science fiction, driven by science fiction. It's not as if you have this amazing discovery in the lab. Oh my gosh, I discovered something, and I can use it for something else. No, it's that you have this idea that you should be able to do something, and then you try to prove it, that you can do it in the lab. So it's not even a science, it's not even a technology, and I can talk more about that. It's much more of a science fiction being imposed on the world as if we had the powers to do what science fiction says we should be doing. This has happened from the very beginning, and we can take 1972 as the beginning of genetic engineering, 1996, the release of genetically engineered crops. I jumped 1982, which is the first release of genetically engineered organisms that happened from this building out. But then 1996, by the year 2000, they had to rebrand themselves. Every time they need to change their names because they fail, because they cannot deliver to the standards of the science fiction that they are working towards. And instead of accepting defeat or saying, well, let's look back and see what happened, they say, no, no, no. We'll invent another frontier and promise that we will get to that frontier in the next 10 years or next 15 years. We're going to, you know, it happened in Switzerland, $2 billion going into a project to supposedly produce a completely artificial brain. Didn't work, but you don't hear about it. You heard when they were promising that they would do that, and when $2 billion from the public were given to this lab, and then you don't hear about how they failed. They continue to remake themselves. Now, the question I think you're asking is, how is that possible? How is it possible that you could get away with 50 years, 1972, 2022, is half a century of failure, and still get all of the credit, all of the money, all of the political attention, have open doors in Geneva, have open doors in Washington, D.C. How is that possible? It's only possible because of the cultural engineering, the cultural transformation that comes ahead of whatever intervention, whatever gene drives or whatever technical intervention might be. People are convinced that this is going to happen, that this has to happen. There's no stopping it. How many people say that? You cannot stand in front of it because there's no stopping it. It's a new technology that will never be stopped. When they do that, they really are utilizing the imagery of nuclear power, of telecommunications going up to satellites and coming down in such an amazingly reliable way, applying that to biology. So the transformation of the human perception of this, so the cultural transformation, the psychological transformation, happened before. And now they get away with simply saying, oh, this is going to be like the computer revolution. Well, it's not. This is going to be like the nuclear revolution. It's never been. If you take each one of those revolutions, if you want to call them revolutions, and I think they are, the nuclear revolution is a massive transformation of the planet and humanity. Those revolutions, from concept to application, so from concept of the nuclear bomb to practical application in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, 30 years, more or less. From the concept of a computer that would be available to large numbers of people to the PC being the personal computer, another about 30 years. In biology, there's nothing today that would approach PC as the personal cloner, right? They wish that there would be such a thing, and they have actually talked about it that way. Like, we're going to reach a moment when individuals will be able to have a little machine in their house, come up with an idea of a life form that they want, a yeast or a baby, who cares, or a fly or a dog, and then just feed it into the machine, feed the raw materials, and out will pop out a dog that you like. That imagination, that PC would be personal cloner, is there. There are people who would love to have that, and yet it doesn't happen. Half a century, really meager results, almost nothing, but incredible credit in the public imagination, because there's been this massive engineering transformation of the institutions, and even more importantly, of the public's perception of what they want, who they are, and what their place is in the world.